Hi, my name is Ashish, and in this video, we will see data expiration in Azure Cache for Redis. So, see, data is not always permanent, and there are times you would like to delete it at a specific time. For example, in your application, users can set let's say you're making a messaging application, users can set the display name of the group chat. However, you want the name to reset after 1 hour. You could accomplish this by writing your own server-side logic that set an hour timer and reset the name. However, Azure Cache for Redis supports data expiration, which is a feature that does this automatically without writing any additional logic. So, what actually is data expiration? So, data expiration is a feature that can automatically delete a key and value in the cache after a set amount of time. Why would you use data expiration? Data expiration is commonly used in situations where the data you are storing is short-lived. This is important because Azure Cache for Redis is an memory database and you don't have as much memory available to use as you would if you were storing on disk. Because you have limited storage with Azure Cache for Redis, you want to make sure you are only storing data that is important. If the data doesn't need to be around for a long time, make sure that you set an expiration. And there are ways we can use data expiration in Azure Cache for Redis. We can use the set the timeout of a key in seconds, milliseconds, and few other ways, right? So let me just quickly log on to the portal and take it from there. So we left the previous video wherein we made the changes here. These are the code, right? So we can add the expiration of 15 seconds to both of these keys, my key 1 and my key 2. So let me add another line. Or set the same. Let me update it. Right, so if I can add this here, I'm adding the, let me do the indentation properly. So I'm adding the expiration time here. All right. So save it. And if I do .NET run, yeah, it's failing because the version that I'm using is unsupported. I have to use a preview language version, right? So you can verify this as well by adding the content into the program.cs file. So there are some eviction policies as well. So memory is the most critical resource for Azure Cache for Redis because it's an in-memory database. We can run into problems when you begin adding data that exceeds the amount of memory available. Azure Cache for Redis supports eviction policies, which indicate how data should be handled when you run out of memory. So, what exactly is the use or what exactly is the eviction policy? Is that an eviction policy is a plan that determines how your data should be managed when you exceed the maximum amount of memory available. For example, using an eviction policy, you could tell Azure Cache for Redis to delete a random key to make room for the new data being inserted, right? There are some, there are few types of eviction policies like no eviction, all keys IRU, all keys random, volatile TTL, volatile random. You can read more about it on the documentation and you can explore how would you set an eviction policy and which eviction policy would be of use to you, right? And one more important topic. So let me show you. this, right? So this is your Redis cache. If you see the advanced settings here, so it only allows access via SSL. This is the default port, and not changing anything. I want to show you one thing. So this is how you reboot your cache for Redis. Cluster size. Okay, so there is the option that I was looking for is Cashier side pattern, right? So what exactly it how it works is that you when building an application you want to provide a great user experience. If you are making an application for an end user, and a part of this is the quick data retrieval. So like your user is looking some kind of data, or he or she is trying to retrieve the data from their personal profile. Let's say you have made an app, a messaging app. Then the retrieving data from a database is typically a slow process. And if this data is read often, this could provide a poor user experience. So let's say a user tries to update a picture, retrieve some information from their profile. And if that process is slow, that would not bring up the good user experience for you. Now, the cache side pattern describes how you can implement a cache in conjunction with a database to return the most commonly accessed data as quickly as possible. Right? So the cache side pattern dictates that when you need to retrieve data from a data source, like a relational database, you should first check for the data in your cache. If the data is in your cache, use it. If the data is not in your cache, then query the database. So it would, if the first attempt would be to query data inside the cache, then the process would be much faster, right? And you can send the data, you can return the data back to the user from the cache. And if you do not have a data in your cache, you then query a database and then add it in your cache. So next time when the user looks for the same data, you can retrieve it from your cache and deliver it to the user. Right, so then this will then allow you to access the data from your cache the next time it is needed, and the process would be much faster, right? And there are some considerations that you can use for cache side pattern. So you have to very carefully consider which data to put in the cache, right? Like not all data is suitable to be cached. So the cache side pattern is useful when you are required to access data frequently from a data source that uses a disk, right? So this is what I wanted to tell you about Azure Cache for Redis and the different topics that are associated with you that helps you make a wise decision and implement Azure Cache for Redis in your environment. I hope this was informative for all of you guys. If you have any queries, please mention them in the comment section and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Have a good day ahead.